As a follower of Christ, have you ever struggled with the idea or the notion of firearms, guns? Are they ethical? Are they moral? Should you as a follower of Christ be pro-gun or against guns? This is a topic that many Christians or, followers of Christ as a whole struggled with that concept for ages, right? You want to stay tuned for this video because one, I'm going to show you a video of what took place at Joel Osteen's church, Lakewood, where there was a woman with a 5-year-old child literally went inside the church and shot up the place. I want you to pay attention to how they responded to this woman, and also you want to stay tuned to the very end because I'm going to show you from a biblical perspective whether or not you should be in support of guns. All right,
investigators are sifting through chilling new videos like this, showing panicked churchgoers in one of the country's largest houses of worship. With her son by her side, police say 36-year-old Genesee Moreno walked into the megachurch carrying an AR-style rifle. When she was confronted by off-duty officers working security, she opened fire.
They were repetitive, boom, 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 boom.
The sound sent the congregation scrambling as security returned fire, killing the shooter.
If it weren't for them, the number of casualties and victims would have been much higher. There is no doubt.
The shooter's son appeared to be caught in the crossfire. The boy remains hospitalized in critical condition. A 57-year-old man who was also struck has been released from the hospital. While investigators zero in on a motive, they revealed yesterday one of the shooter's guns had a sticker reading Palestine on it. They also found anti-Semitic writings, but say they believe these may be related to a dispute with her ex-husband's family.
There was a familial dispute, and some of those individuals are Jewish.
Officials said the shooter has a history of mental illness and was arrested at least 6 times, including a weapons charge.
She was violent many times. We've asked for help from police and received it many times, but she was still allowed to own guns.
First off, thank Chief and the Mayor and Chief Pena and all of these men and women did an amazing job, and it's just, you said it, Chief, it could have been a lot worse. Of course, we're devastated. I mean, we've been here 65 years and have somebody shooting in your church, but, we don't understand why these things happen, but we know God's in control, and we're going to pray for that little 5-year-old boy and pray for the lady that was deceased, her family and all, and the other gentleman, but I don't know, it's just kind of in a fog, but, just believe that, we're going to stay strong. We're going to continue to move forward, and there are forces of evil, but the forces that are for us, the forces of God are stronger than that. So we're going to keep going strong and just, doing what God's called us to do, lift people up and give hope to the world. Again, I want to thank all these gentlemen because, I can only imagine if it would have happened during the 11 o'clock service. We were in between services going into the Spanish service. So, if there's anything good of it, you know what, she didn't get in there and do a whole lot worse damage. So we thank God for that. He's watching over all of us. And as the Chief says, we're going to keep going strong and bringing hope to the world. But thank you again, gentlemen.
now first and foremost, I would like to say this, right? I'm actually impressed. I didn't think someone the like of Joel Osteen, especially the way he preaches, it comes across to me as someone who is a pacifist, right? And I didn't actually think that he would actually have trained, soldiers, or I won't say trained soldiers, but security, where they would respond at a moment's notice to any type of attack, terrorist attack, whatever the case may be. In this case, it just happened to be that woman and the 5-year-old child. I'm glad that, again, the casualties were kept at a minimal, but this is what we really need to pay attention to. Why were the casualties kept at a minimum? You heard from Joel Osteen's mouth himself say he thinks that those men responded the way they did, those men that took out that woman. So I want to ask you all something, right? Just logically speaking, should you be against guns when they use the gun to actually protect hundreds of thousands of people that were in that congregation that day, I mean, it would be hypocritical, right? You know, this tends to be majority of how Christians operate and think, all right? I want you to check this video out.
Should you own a gun? No. You should own several guns.
One of the strangest parts of a particular group of Christians replacing Christian ethics with conservative politics is the fixation on guns. And that's saying something, because we're talking about a religion that was created by and for the poor and oppressed, which they've also turned into a religion that comforts incredibly rich people. But I digress. Gun thing is especially weird because it goes against one of the most clear agreements across the history of Christianity, which has to do with a right to self-defense, or more properly, the lack of a right to self-defense. According to the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus taught non-resistance, told his followers to turn the other cheek, disarmed his own disciples and rebuked them when they used weapons when they were coming up to the crucifixion. Of course, it's central to the Christian narrative that, Jesus is God, has the power to do things a different way, and yet accepts the violence that comes upon him in the crucifixion and doesn't fight back against it. All of this has led most Christians across Christian history to claim that, Christians should not participate in individual self-defense.
So as you can see you could see a bunch of Christians writing in the comments, right? Shouldn't they be using thoughts and prayers to protect themselves? Right? You have someone by the name of Edward Ike. It says, Jesus said to love your enemies and to do good to those who despitefully use you. Then you have this one individual that says, thou shalt not kill. Now, notice what the people in the comments actually said. So you can see that pretty much Christians, they oppose to guns. They have this very weird take where they believe that, Jesus didn't fight back on his way to the cross, right? He didn't fight back, so thus we should, turn the other cheek. We should not defend ourselves. We should be pacifists. And that's totally not biblical. Alright, I'm gonna tell you why. For one, let's actually address what took place when Peter actually took his sword and cut off the ear of that soldier, right? Notice what Jesus said. Jesus said, put your sword back in its place. Listen to what I'm saying. He said, put your sword back in its place. Now, if he was against weapons, and obviously they're not going to say guns didn't exist back then, but so that's why I'm using the sword. But if he said put your sword back in its place, why didn't he say throw away the sword? Why didn't he say get rid of the sword? No, he said put it back in your place. Put it back in its place. Was he truly against the use of the sword? Or was he against the fact that at that particular point in time, Peter was actually going against the ordained, right, road to crucifixion? I mean, Christ had to die in order to save humanity. And at that particular point in time, trying to defend Christ was literally trying to go against the ordained plan from the beginning. So that's why he said, hey, it's all right. I already know. That's why I came, right? This is what Jesus is saying. This is my purpose. So, and you're stopping that. For further proof, right, we have verses where literally Jesus said, he's saying himself that if you don't have a sword, go sell your cloak and buy one. I think that totally finishes it off right there. I mean, there is nothing left to even talk about. If Jesus is literally saying, sell your cloak, if you don't got a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. I think it's extremely clear that clearly Jesus was not against the use of weapons. And that would make more biblical sense, right? Because think about it. Think about all the countless wars that Israel, which Jesus was, he's an Israelite, right? He was an Israelite. Think about all the countless wars that the Israelites been through, and it was never condemned. God, right, never condemned the use of weaponry. I mean, Abraham had trained armed servants. Think about that. Again, people, you have to actually start using your self-autonomy and read the book, the Bible, for yourself. Because there's a lot of, so-called pastors or self-proclaimed preachers out there, and they will literally send your soul to a burning lake of fire, all because of what mommy and daddy taught them out of religiosity. I don't care what your mom says. I don't care what your pastor or your church leader says. It doesn't matter if it doesn't line up with the word. And this is the reason why I'm making this video, because I just really want to actually stretch, your mindset just a bit. Rather than taking this approach that, being offended, right? Think about what I'm saying. Also, even the concept of turn the other cheek, there was a context, my people. I mean, again, going back to the fact that Jesus was an Israelite. When he was preaching, even when that verse was used, right? It was used during the Beatitudes, okay? Jesus was literally on the mount preaching to his people, the other Israelites. So what's the point? The point is that, when he says turn the other cheek, he was trying to preserve peace amongst the body of believers. That's the context. That's the context. Fellow believers. Right? So, in other words, if you have a brother or a sister in the body of Christ, if they may, do something against you, right? And the actual, turning the actual smiting of the cheek, it could be physical, but it could be in many other forms too. Someone may just slander your name. They could gossip behind your back. There's many ways for someone to smite you on the cheek, right? But the context is they might do something that offends you, and rather than bringing further division in the body of Christ, because again, Apostle Paul already said, beware of the concision, right? The concision of the body, right? The cutting apart of the body. I mean, just to give you guys an analogy, but like if you guys see a person that's maimed, right? Like perhaps they got only one arm or one leg, right? You'll probably love them the same, but don't you initially just be like, oh, what happened there? Right? Because we know that is not the original intent of how the Most High created the human body. Again, you will still love the individual, but something wrong must have taken place. Something wrong. Again, the body should not be divided. So now going back on point, you have these altercations amongst brothers and sisters, right? Within the body. It's always God's purpose. Yah, the creator of the universe. It's always his purpose to create peace amongst the body. Because again, any kingdom divided against itself will not stand. So how are we, who are supposed to be representatives of the kingdom of the Most High, right? How are we supposed to be divided and actually think that we're going to somehow conquer the forces of evil, conquer Satan's kingdom? We cannot if we're divided. And this is extremely important, you guys. We must maintain peace. Even Abraham and Lot, when they were both growing too big to preserve peace, Lot said, Abraham said, my brother, I love you. That's what he said. Because I love you, how about we just separate? You go this way, I go this way. But it proves they were still, they still had love for one another, because when Lot was kidnapped, Abraham still, again, his armed servants, right? His armed servants went and battled against 5 kings, and they won, just so that they could save Lot. So clearly when they separated, the love was still there. Abraham loved them. The separation was so that they would stop fighting. So again, you guys, turning the other cheek is not just for anybody, it's for your brother. Because again, if we were to take that mindset, the rest of the Bible would not make sense. And there is no isolated doctrine within the Bible. You can never just take one verse and make a doctrine out of it, because every verse is supported by other verses, right? This is why you hear the Bible say line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little, right? You get it, right? Out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every matter be established. You can't just take one witness, take one verse, and make a whole doctrine out of it, turn the other cheek. So why were these Israelites, smiting the cheeks of the Philistines, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, you name it. I think you guys get the point, right? The Bible is not against you as a believer defending yourself. Now, to add some clarity to land the plane, just because you have a firearm, right, or any weapon, that does not mean that we out here trying to cause trouble and looking for fights. No. However, you don't choose the daytime or hour when evil comes knocking at your door. And at that point in time, are you ready? For you men out there that claim y'all love your family, if somebody broke into your house, are you gonna just literally allow some heathen to take advantage and oppose their will on your wife and your children? No. You need to provide and protect your family as a man. I just don't understand the mindset of these Christians that are against firearms. There is no sword in history or it's a gun that just magically floats in the air and starts attacking people. The issue is never the actual firearm or the weapon. The issue is the people behind these weapons. These are the people that are possessed with demonic spirits and are against the actual people of Yah. And it's up to you again. Train yourselves. Protect yourselves. We're not here looking for fights, but don't be a punching bag for somebody to impose their wickedness on you. No, it's not doctrinally sound. It's not morally sound. It doesn't make sense in any capacity. I hope this brought some clarification. Again, going back on Joel Osteen, I actually don't like Joel Osteen. I don't like his method of preaching. But in this instance, I was actually very impressed that he actually had the means to protect his congregation. With all the talk of peace and how he speaks very sweet, yet, it seemed like he had enough common sense to have some people in the congregation to protect the members. I respect it 100%, and he was not wrong whatsoever. A lot of lives was preserved because of his preparation. But let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. Do you think the use of firearms is wrong? Do you think it's morally wicked, or whatever other term you want to use, just because somebody chooses to defend himself? Chime in below. I would love to hear from you guys. Anyway, with that being said, Nick over and out. The message sent. Jesus is King, y'all.